Good day. There was an English playwright. His name was William Shakespeare. He was a great dramatist. He wrote a lot of plays and sonnets. And amongst all his various plays, he was very good at capturing one thing. He wrote about paupers, he wrote about women, he wrote about men, and he wrote about kings, a lot of kings. In all his plays, he was very good at capturing one essence of humanity, of the human spirit. He was very, very good at capturing all the gamut and the ranges of human emotions and human desires. He was a master. His books have been transcribed and put into many versions all over the world, and his plays have been performed all across the world and continue to be performed all across the world. William Shakespeare knew the human spirit. One of the things, if William Shakespeare was alive today, he probably would have written a play about Donald Trump. And it would have been very interesting play indeed. I have said severally that President Donald Trump will not support the Ukrainian cause. I have said it that President Donald Trump will not support the Ukrainian cause because he's human and he remembers what Ukraine did to him. Ukraine played a central role, and the Ukrainian leader at that time was Zelensky. They played a central role in his impeachment in his first tenure when he was being accused and harangued and terrorized by the Democratic-led House and Congress then. Ukraine was a fodder for which they impeached him the first time, and Zelensky was at the heart of it. But the President Trump has a game he has to play. He has to dance to many, many tunes, and one of the tunes he has to dance to is that of the immense amount of supporters that Ukraine has in America, in the Congress and in the Senate. Vast amount of supporters. But even then, too, he also has to play to the tune of the Europeans who do not want him to leave the Ukrainians hanging high and dry. He has to meander through all these interests that want him to continue to keep America in the war. And as long as President Trump is president and President Trump needs things from the Senate, now and then he needs congressional support for some of his bills, he will have to play along. He will have to give and take and receive. And now, as a day of reckoning is approaching, that day of reckoning is the time when there will finally be sanctions placed on Russia. President Trump has decided that he should show a little face, a support that shows support for the Ukrainian cause. President Trump called President Zelensky, talked about the brutality of the Russian drone attacks on Ukraine recently. He talked about drone manufacturing, and he told him that if the Russians don't come to sit at the table, he's going to place secondary sanctions on not only Russia, but all the people, all the countries that support the Russian economy by buying goods from Russia. Good day, and welcome to my channel, Ebima Mungo's Perspective on Global Affairs. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. If you have any comments regarding the opinions I express on this video, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. President Trump talked to President Zelensky just prior to the visit of a special envoy, Steve Witkoff, to Moscow. He assured him that he still has the back of the Ukrainians. President Trump is very duplicious in the system now. He's a master politician. He learned from what had happened to him in his first tenure, and he has learned to keep different faces for different interest groups. He has to assure the Ukrainians because they are losing terribly in the war front, at the battlefield. They are losing in the battlefield, and he has to assure them. And since he has to assure them, he has now unleashed a barrage against several countries, including the countries that constitute the BRICS. Most notably among them, First was South Africa, to whom he has given tariffs of 30% and assured that they will still get some other form of punishment. He says he's not even attending the G20 summit in South Africa. He has dispensed a tariff regime of 50% on Brazil because in his reckoning, they are undermining the American dollar and they are doing quite a lot to damage the American economy. And they are also supporting Russia because there's an extensive trade between Russia and Brazil. Then again, also, he has finally taken up a great battle and a great war, tariff war, and he has brought down heavily the tariff stick on India. India is a great country. India is a country with a population of 1.5 billion, if not more. India has nuclear weapons. India has 2 submarines. India has great weapon systems that they sell. But India also has a vulnerability. They do some trade with America. India is very great. Among all the things that they do, they give to America a lot of human capital. But one thing is that, to a large extent, India cannot procure they can't manufacture modern weaponry for themselves. They're not good at it. When they need planes, they do have their own planes, Tigers. They have to buy from Russia if they want modern day cutting edge, and they've sought the help of Russia in getting the Su-57. But President Trump recently asked India to buy the F-35. India turned it down. There's a lot of problems in buying American weaponry. American weaponry comes with conditionalities, one, and then it comes to the possibility of America switching off those weapons if they don't want you to engage with anybody or misuse it the way they wish you to use it. In the war between Pakistan and India recently, there was the option of the Pakistanis using F-16, but they couldn't use it against India because a provision of their sales acquisition of those F-16 was that they can't use it against India. They had to resort to using Chinese J-10C planes, and they did it very effectively because one of the things is that India, in expanding its access to arms, bought Rafale planes from France. The Pakistanis, using Chinese planes, shot them down. The Indians don't want to tell you how many of those planes they shot. So President Trump has come down heavy on India. He has come down, and in a recent tweet, he said he's going to continue this is what he said about India. He says, India is not buying massive amounts of Russian oil. They are not only buying massive oil, they are then, for much of the oil purchase, selling it to the open market for big profits. They don't care how many people in Ukraine are being killed by the Russian war machine. Because of this, I will be substantially raising the tariffs paid by India to the US. Thank you for your attention on this matter. President Trump had already put a 25% tariff on India, but now he says he's going to increase it. In fact, he has already mentioned that he's going to increase it. This is coming at a time that India and American relationship were warming because Vice President Vance is married to an Indian, Usha Vance, and for that, he had even visited Modi recently and had good discussions with India. India has a course to try and improve relationships with America, and they were thinking that because they all have a common agenda in staving off China and controlling the power and influence of China, because India has always had a border problem with the Chinese. They wanted American support, but this is a big slap on India. And ironically, as Trump is attacking India, is attacking India, attacking South Africa, attacking Brazil, and attacking all the other members of BRICS. And on Friday, we will know what he is going to do to Russia when the Russians tell Steve Witkoff straight up that we don't believe in whatever you're saying. We are going to continue our war. We're going to continue to until we achieve the outcomes of the special military operation, which is what they're going to tell Steve Witkoff, no matter what he comes up with. We will see what Trump will want to do to India. President Trump has become the latest president to weaponize one of the great assets of America. The dollar was weaponized by presidents before him. The financial system of America was weaponized also by presidents before him, notably when they put sanctions on Venezuela, on Iran, and recently on Russia. They were cut off the SWIFT, they were cut off access to the dollar. But this latest round of weaponization is the weaponization of the American consumer. The American consumer market is the largest in the world by miles. It is worth $18 trillion. It has an infrastructure that you only need to be in America to understand. Homes that are sold by mortgage, retail businesses that you get into supermarkets, you can't just even believe it if you're from probably you're an immigrant and you go into a store like Walmart, H-E-B, or any of the grocery stores all across America, you cannot believe it. The immense breadth and reach of Amazon, the suite of things available there, and they have the infrastructure to help you consume. The banking system gives credit. The American consumer contributes 65% of the American GDP. It is beyond belief. And for the very first time, President Trump has decided that this lollipop, because if you go to an American store, possibly let's say Walmart again, or let's say Target, or let's say Costco, what you will see is a range of products from all over the world. In the places where you have groceries, you will see bananas from Ecuador, you will see oranges, different types of oranges, pineapple, you will even see products from Philippines all over the world. The whole world comes and provides, the whole world is part of the supply chain of the American consumer. The whole world benefits from it. And as long as the dollar is a sought after currency, because the dollar is what facilitates international trade, and it does a lot of countries good when they do business in America and earn dollars. When you don't have access to dollar, you may not have access to the currency that oils the world trade, global trade. Increasingly, the Chinese are trying to undermine that system, but it is still a long way off. The Chinese have come in and have decided that they are going to help. They're going to help the countries that are facing the wrath of America, of Donald Trump, but they are still a long way from it. Donald Trump is weaponizing the American consumer at a time now that the world economy is in flux. He's weaponizing access to this $18 million economy. But it is not just as if it is very rosy for him. Now we are getting you to hear that there's blowback. An analyst from Moody's recently just said that he believes that America may be veering towards recession. There's blowback against America despite all these tariffs that are going on. Big blowback, but yet people still want the American dollar, because while the American dollar may be losing its strength in America, the American dollar is very, very strong. It's very strong relative to most of the currencies in the world, apart from those currencies that are pegged to it, like the Middle Eastern currencies that are pegged to the American dollar. But beyond that, American dollar is very strong because most countries, if you know, besides the trade, their purchasing power parity is very low. They tend to have cheaper means of buying the same products in America. So many people seek this American market. China has become a big problem for America. China too is facing the possibility of sanctions. Countries are now deciding that they will take away the fact that after 3 years of trying to undermine the Russians, failing woefully in this enterprise, they have decided they will go after all the countries that facilitate the trade between Russia and support the Russian economy. So for the very first time today, we heard that even the EU is thinking about sanctions against China. But China has become a veritable source of alternatives to a lot of countries. Even today, it emerged that China immediately on hearing that the Russians, the Brazilian, there's been 50% tariff on Brazil. They created access for over 200 companies in Brazil that exports coffee to America because coffee is one of the biggest products of America from Brazil. The Brazilians too have other things too that grudges that Russia, that Trump has against them. They have taken all the markets for soybeans, for wheat, and for corn. That used to be the mainstay of American farmers in their export to China. But these days, there's zero import of oil and gas from America, and there is a very declining amount of exports of farm produce because of Brazil. So these are all among the sins of Brazil. So the Chinese have helped the Brazilians and said, you can bring your coffee. China has created a pathway because China is now a big consuming country too. Their own consumer economy is 8 trillion. And this is even as the Chinese are known for saving. They don't consume. They don't do credit like how they do in America. The credit system here facilitates the whole ability of the American to purchase. You bring in your new iPhone and then they give you your old iPhone, they give you a new iPhone, you use it until you don't even know. You don't even know there's credit system that is so powerful, it facilitates consumption here, but not so. The Chinese save. That is not to say they don't have credit system, but they save their own ability to consume. In fact, the Americans are pleading that the Chinese should improve their ability to consume so that they can sell more to the Chinese. But the Chinese do consume. They consume luxury goods. They consume goods so much so that their market is now the biggest source. It's as much a veritable market for the Europeans as it is for when they market to America. They consume cognac, they consume French luxury goods, they consume so much beef that it is now their economy is now very important to the well-being of a lot of countries. And since they are increasing their consumption, they are also improving their supply chains. And when South Africa was hit with a tariff regime that was so high, they themselves also opened up, not only South Africa, to 500 to 50 countries, 53 countries in Africa, they gave them zero tariffs. President Trump has put 40% tariffs on Lesotho, puts huge amounts of tariffs on most African countries, the least being 10 to 14%, the highest being 40%. And yet the Chinese opened up their market to all African products because for them, when they get these African products as raw materials that America doesn't want, they want it. Their economy is growing. They produce so many goods, and then they're also the world's biggest exporters of a whole variety of goods. So the same way that the Europeans turned their back to Russian oil and the Chinese snapped it up is the same way that the Chinese are snapping up Brazilian goods and African goods and creating pathways that bypass. And in doing this, the Chinese are creating soft power, integrating these countries, taking them to look towards China, towards the East, and they're drawing them away from the dollar. Because you should understand that the Chinese also have swap currency systems where those countries don't need to trade with China with dollar. They just used to use local currencies. Because for the Chinese, if you give them the products, they will always have products to give to you. They are the largest trading partner of 125 countries in the world. So while President Trump is doing this and weaponizing the American consumer, the latest suite of things that America is weaponizing, China is bringing them closer and taking them, integrating them into their own supply chain. And this is now making them build better relationships, soft power with these countries, and slowly they're pushing the whole world towards the sphere of the Chinese. As I'd already said in the past, they have two important spheres. But don't think that it is just the end of it. President Trump is now facing a situation where the reality of his tariffs is actually making some people wonder if the economy is not being impacted much more than is being reported. Recently, the Statistics Office in America, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics reports show that US added just an average of 35,000 jobs. Usually, America adds 250,000, 300,000 jobs in a month. But these tariff issues have started to create some supply chain problems and anxieties and uncertainties in the market. What did President Trump do? He fired the boss of the statistics department because he didn't want to hear that figure. But that is not the end of it. Even Moody'S recently downgraded American credit rating by a notch. But Moody's, the head of Moody'S, the chief analyst of Moody'S, Mark Zandi, has warned what he described America on the precipice of recession. He says all these tariffs is pushing America close to recession. That is what an analyst in a respected rating agency like Moody'S has said. He said growth will slow down and prices will climb up by 2.57%. That is what he anticipates. Already, the growth rate of America is projected to be around 2% by the World Bank. So he doesn't think that America will achieve that level of growth and that there will be consequences. There will be consequences on the economy. Already, Trump has been trying to stimulate the economy by calling on the head of the Feds, Jerome Powell, to decrease the interest rate. The whole purpose of decreasing interest rate is so that the American economy will be stimulated, people can be able to borrow, and then when they borrow, they can invest. He is fighting so many battles on several fronts, and this one now is also is possibly going to have its blowback, because we should remember when Biden started this war against Russia, he didn't expect the inflation and the inflationary blowback that was going to hit America. President Trump has started in a war against the whole countries of the world using tariffs. We don't know the consequences. There will be unintended consequences we just don't know. This call and this realization, this projection that there may be recession is one that is a surprise, maybe a surprise to some, but maybe not a surprise to those people who worry so much and who have been challenging Scott Bessent on the merits of this tariff regime. But President Trump is not just using it now to stimulate the economy of America, he's also using it as a tool of geopolitics to clobber those people who are in the sphere and who are the supporters of Russia, or who trade with Russia. And he's also using it now to appease those who want Ukraine to be supported, even though he himself, as I said at the beginning of this video, does not wish to support Ukraine. This is where I end my video for today. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. If you have any comments, please place them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. Until I see you on my next video. Goodbye.